So I have 3 new eyeshadow palettes from 3 different indie brands, and I thought I would feature them all in one video. I will be creating a look with one of each, so let's get into some of the details on some of these palettes. So the first palette is a Valentine's Day themed eyeshadow palette. I know it's a little bit late, but it is the Lovesick palette from Wicked Widow Beauty, and it was sent to me by the brand, so thank you so much for sending it over to me. This is the 3rd palette I have ever tried from the brand, and I have been very much enjoying their formulation, not just the mattes, but the shimmers as well. So this one has 4 mattes and 4 shimmers, and all 4 of the shimmers are very beautiful, shiny, and they're dimensional. There's a little bit of varying texture, so Love Like Winter is a little bit flakier, so is Memories, and then Goodnight Moon is a very smooth, iridescent kind of shifty shade. I love the compact size of this one. So the next palette I'm going to be talking about is the new Wizard palette from Cosmetica. There's also a cheek palette, and both of these were gifted to me, and I do also have an affiliate code with the brand, so I'll put up on the screen. So here is the highlighter palette. So they're a little bit more like blushy highlighters. They do have quite a bit of pigment to them, but they are so smooth and really beautiful on the cheek. I already know based on just this palette, I need them to do more highlighter palettes like that, or just single highlighters as well. So here is the Wizard palette. Packaging is always super cute. So inside is a predominantly blue color story with pops of 2 pastel yellows. One is a matte, one is a shimmer. And then there's also a holographic multi-chrome right here, which is called Graviturgy. And so Curiosity, Incantation, and Spellbook are pretty much kind of like pastel kinds of mattes. So I do feel like this is probably the lightest color story that they have ever done. And then the 3rd palette I did purchase myself, but I do have a affiliate code with the brand that is from Glossgods, and it is the Gal on Jupiter. Love this font, super fun. They have a bunch of palettes like these. I also have the reddish palette, so let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a video on that one. So this one is a very neutral color story, obviously, and you have basically varying tones of browns as well as one really truly deepening up shade. I think the rest of them are a little bit more mid-tone to some lighter mattes as well, and then bunch of beautiful neutral shimmers. None of these shades are squishy. These 4 shades are very smooth, very metallic, but not necessarily sparkly. And then Hubble Hues really truly is what brings the sparkle. It is also a little bit more sheer. I think the rest of them are pretty opaque. And then Orion Octavia is actually like a holographic silver essentially. It is so beautiful. I feel like the holo is not like too obvious, but I haven't put that one on the lids yet. And the shade and Hubble Hues are a little bit on the texture side, but they do completely smooth out, especially if you use a finger. They do just apply really beautifully. It is the palette I'm wearing right now. So let's get into the 3 looks, and I'll give you some of my first impression thoughts at the end of the video. Voiceover Millie, I'm first going to be using the Wizard palette, and I'm going in with a Spellbook, and I'm kind of just packing it onto the inner half of my lid and up into the crease. And then on the outer corner, I'm taking Telepathy, and I'm just kind of slowly building it up and blending it out. I did use Intellect in a reel, so I thought in this video I would use the other shade of blue, and also connecting it underneath the lower lash line. And I'm picking up Meteor Storm on my pinky, and I'm laying that down onto the inner half of my lid, onto the center portion as well. And then I'm picking up Divination, and that's going on the outer corner, blending into the darker outer blue, and then using Conjuration with my pinky on the inner corner. And here's the first finished look. For the second look, I'm dipping into the Lovesick palette, and I'm first picking up Letting Go, and I'm putting that into the crease and blending it all the way around, so all the way from the inner crease onto the lower lash line, connecting it, and then I'm taking a little bit of Worlds Apart to just blend out the edge of that. Taking Goodnight Moon as the inner corner highlight, and then using a brush laying down Memories. I did mist my brush a little bit just to help avoid any fallout, and then taking Fall For You on the inner half of my lid. The shade is super beautiful, dimensional, metallic. And here's a second finished look. I'm going to be using Gal on Jupiter from Glossgods, and I'm going in with this dark brown Hypatius Halo is what it's named, and I'm just gonna put that right onto the outer corner, just kind of first packing that on, and then I'm gonna take the Refer 13 brush and Celestial Trek, and I'm gonna use that to blend out the edges of that. And I'm just going to bring that a little bit, about halfway into my crease as well. But really mostly using this to just blend the outer corner. Just going in with a little bit more. Kind of creating a V out here. And I'm going to wipe off the brush and take Sputnik Stardust onto the inner third. And I'm going to pick up Stormy Serenity just on my pinky. And that's just going to go about halfway in on my lid onto the outer portion. And the shade is super, super smooth, a little bit harder pressed. And then picked up Hubble Hues. Look at that shade. And it's going to be this inner lid kind of highlight. And this shade is so, so dimensional. There's so many little flecks throughout it. I'm also going to be using this as the inner corner highlight. And this one I'm just gonna kind of smooth it out a little bit more. And I picked up Aileen's Authority. And it's gonna go underneath my lower lash line. I did mist my brush with just some water, just to help underneath my lower lash line, so I would also try to avoid too much fallout. And here's the finished look. I'm pretty familiar with Fantasy Cosmetica's formulation at this point, so I feel like I kind of know what to expect. I do feel like color story wise, it's definitely much more on the pastel side. They're very thin pastels, and I do feel like they really need to be packed on, but even then, I just feel like they don't really quite pack a punch like some other pastels I have. The two mattes on the bottom, super, super pigmented. They blend out really nicely. As for the shimmers, these two right here are a little bit more on the sheer side, more topper-like, but you could probably get them to be a little bit more opaque, especially if you put them on top of one of these other mattes. Graviturgy is definitely the smoothest out of all of these. It has like that kind of very usual multi-chrome, super, super smooth, very metallic. It is also holographic, but I do feel like the holo is not really as easily seen as some other holographic eyeshadows, multi-chromes that I have. They're a little bit more subtle, and I feel like they're graying out this multi-chrome just a little bit. I did feature it in a reel, and I felt like it was a little harder to capture once I put this on the lid. The holo effect, I think overall so far, this palette is not my favorite from them, just besides the color story and also the pastels being really thin. I'm just not really too sure about this one, not really something I would probably reach for, especially from all their other amazing palettes. As for the highlighter palette, love it. These look so stunning on the cheek. They just melt into the skin and they give a really beautiful wet-like sheen. There's no particles sitting on top of your cheeks or anything like that, but these are, of course, as you can tell, not for the faint of heart, so only if you like colorful highlighters, blushes, etc. Let's talk about the Lovesick palette next, but their mattes are so, so good, and their shimmer formula is also really, really great. These are all so beautiful. For my preference, there's not enough depth in this palette, with this shade being the deepest and then this being the darkest shimmer. Just personal preference, that doesn't really vibe with me and the kinds of looks that I would like to create with this palette. I'm just missing a deeper matte in here, but otherwise this palette is so beautiful, and I really like that it's just a nice little concise palette. The artwork's really cute. Now let's talk about the Gal on Jupiter palette. No issues with the mattes whatsoever, but I do need to try out some of the other shades. I definitely plan on doing that this week. That will keep you updated on my thoughts on this palette. Definitely want to use the Orion Octavia because it is holographic, and I really want to see what that one looks like on the lid. If you love cool tones, I think this is a great palette. It's not too overwhelming, it's not too many shades, though I do feel like there could have been one more just even deeper shade, or at least like deeper than this one, but also like another one. Maybe switch out one of these silvers. Hubble Hues is so dimensional, so stunning for sure. Immediate favorite out of the whole entire palette. So far, really, really enjoying. Great everyday palette. So let me know in the comments below if you tried any of these palettes. Did you pick them up? Are you contemplating picking them up? I would love to know. And that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.